folks, in today's episode, we're going to talk Endeavor Age of Sail by Burnt Island Games. But before that, we're going to update you on games that we've been playing and kind of some thoughts on why BGA might be, Board Game Arena, waning on us. Stick around.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
All right, today with me, I've got Rob and Mitchell, and I'm Carlos, and we're going to talk to you about, catch you up to some stuff we've been playing, things that we've been doing with regards to the hobby, and we'll open up with Rob, talk about any games or things that you want to talk about.
All right, I'm going to start us on a real upper here. So I got a chance to play at our last game day, about 3 weeks ago now. We did a game day over at Armada Games here in Tampa. And I got roped into, bamboozled, swanhoggled, however you want to say it, into a game of Nemesis. This is a game that I was pretty outspoken about when I played it the first time a couple years ago, actually right after it first came out. So it's been a little more than a couple years ago. But anyway, I was not a fan. And going into it, I've never been a fan of semi-co-op. Those two terms just don't really even make sense to me. But I played it when it originally came out without any expansions, without anything on it, just kind of the base game as the Kickstarter came. And it was a long game. It was brand new. I can't remember. I think the first time I played it, maybe one person knew how to play. We had a full complement of, I think it was 6 players. I think that plays up to. And it turned into a marathon. I want to say it was at least a 3, 4, 5 hour game that took up a big chunk of time, and I really was bummed on it. It's for people who don't know, Nemesis is kind of like the Aliens board game. They just don't have the license or didn't have the license for the movie, and so, but it's the same thing. People have secret missions. You're trying to complete different things that you have to do to win the game. It's semi-co-op because you're all fighting to fight back the aliens. You're all cooperating, I should say, to fight back the aliens as they pop up around the board. There can be a traitor in the game that is trying to get the ship to not make it to its destination, which is back to the planet Earth. And so there can be people, actually even possibly I think multiple people running around. Their mission could be to crash the ship or to not let it return to Earth. And so they're running around secretly looking at where the ship is headed up in the cockpit. You can go to the engine room and disable the engines. You don't know whether they're enabled or disabled until you make a trip over there to take a look at it secretly, and then you can see whether it's set to fail the mission or succeed the mission. Again, each player has a hidden thing that they're trying to do. The first time I played, I made it about 3/4 of the way through the game, and I died. Actually, it was a little more than 3/4 of the way. It was a good 3 to 4 hours into the game, and I died. And there is player elimination in this, which I don't like at all, especially in a game of that length. I arrived at game day a couple of weeks ago, and I had no knowledge that a game of Nemesis was going down. A group of people said, "Oh, we're one short. Come on over." Several games had already started. The Nemesis was looking for one more player to round out the group. I resisted. I said, no, not a big fan. Not really liking this game. Oh, no. We'll keep it short. We're going to play it, in under 3 hours. We've got it streamlined. Most of the people have played before. We're gonna knock this one out. And so I finally, and there were no other games starting up, I kind of looked around, looked for an out. I think I kind of looked at Carlos for a minute and was like, "Oh, help me out here." But no, he was involved in a game. I think you had started a 2-player game of
Viticulture. I even offered you a spot at our Viticulture game, and you said, "No, I'm going to go find something else to play."
Oh, and but you had also said that you never wanted to play Viticulture with more than a couple of people. So I knew you were trying to I think you were teaching.
3 or less.
You were trying to get that game going. So I didn't want to mess up your thing there. But anyway, so I decided, I was like, all right, you know what? I'll give Nemesis one more shot. It's been a couple years since I played. And let me just say, I do not like Nemesis anymore after my second play. It was equally as miserable. In this game of Nemesis, I think we went 5 hours. I think somebody said 5 hours. I was the only person. It was another full game. I think it was either 5 or 6 players. I was the only one who survived until the end. Everybody else died. And my mission was that I had to survive along with one other player. And so again, I almost had no control of my fate. I mean, all the way up until the last round of the game, I think 4 of the 5 of us were alive, and the other people either ended up getting infected or didn't make it to an escape pod or whatever. And so I was the only one who escaped and survived the game, and I still didn't win. And so I mean, this game is just full of negative experiences for me that really has drug it down. I know it's a super popular game. People love the theme. People love that it's aliens on a board game, but I don't know. I don't think I will ever play this game again. I don't even think I can get roped into playing it again. It's been such a negative experience. There is a co-op version, the new expansion that came out for it, the new Kickstarter that was just delivering. Brian Zeno, and I think it was actually it's Ed's copy of it in our group. He brought it with the new expansion and everything, but we went back and we were teaching a couple of people, so we played the base version of it again. And again, I don't even think, even though I like co-op much better than semi-co-op, I don't think I'm going to give this another chance. I don't think I can get into it. So
thanks for starting on such a high point there, Rob.
But what a bummer.
I have the results here.
Oh, yeah.
From your statement of I'll never play this again, and the results say that was a lie.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the first time you said
First
that.
time I played it, yeah.
That's not you drug this game through the
dirt.
Yeah, the first time you played it. And when I turned around from Viticulture after you shut me down on my invite to play with me.
Oh, no, I would have rather played Viticulture.
And saw you playing Nemesis, I was stunned.
99 times out of 100, Viticulture would be my preference there. Yeah.
As much as you just dogged this game the first time you played it at Escape Winter Con or Dice Tower. I can't recall which one it was.
Actually, no, it was at Armada. Both times I played it have been at Armada.
There was one game at a con, and maybe you stayed away from it then. But either way, you dogged this game. So to see you playing it really stunned me.
Again, I got roped into it. Again, I felt the pressure of the other people. They were like, "Yo, we need one more person. We're going to fill this game out. We want a full game. We want to do the whole experience." And I was like, "Oh, I really don't want to," but I finally gave in, and that was a mistake. So I guess there was a little thing in the back of my mind that was like, maybe there's going to be something that I missed. Maybe the first time I played it, maybe we played it wrong. I don't know. But yeah, and again, I had no expectation. I was told we were going to play in 3 hours or less, and this ended up being, it was a 5 or 6 hour game. And that's just, I was kind of just pushing.
What's crazy is they're playing at miniature tabletops.
Yeah.
So there's no table, there's no chairs. It's standing the whole time.
Yeah, no fun.
Oh my gosh, you're insane.
Yeah,
never,
tell me
never.
No, not again. That's it. So so I'm opening up on a big high note, but let's toss it over to Carlos. Where do you want to go from there?
We talk about here, and I guess we do it how we do it. It's how we game. So whatever. I'm going to talk about things that I've bought and are coming. Like, I'm really happy. I just got my notice of shipment from GMT Games. GMT Games doesn't do Kickstarters. They do a P500,
right?
A pre-order 500 system. And a while ago, I pre-ordered a solo, I guess, AI system for card-driven war games in general. Like, there's not specific, it's general. So like Command and Colors, Memoir 44, Gaul versus Rome, Caesar, Gaul versus Rome. These different card-driven war games, they created a universal system. An actual player, a gamer, just a community member created it, posted it for free on the BGGs, and GMT said, this is awesome. So they worked with that person to create a published version. Created the P500, I put in for it, and I just got my shipment notice. So on June 8th, I should have it delivered, and I'll have the ability to play all these war games that I love to play that Rob won't play with me on my own. So I'm super happy about
play war games. We got to break them out and try them.
All right.
Let's do it.
Now that I have my solo player AI mode.
Yeah.
But GMT P500, super excited about that.
For me, I played some more scenarios of King's Dilemma. I've talked about it a little bit before. Our previous session, we had played 4 scenarios, and this last one we played 7. So we're 11 deep right now. I've heard it ranges anywhere from 11 to 22 scenarios. So we're in the end game. I feel like we're about halfway, because the way it works is as you progress through the game, you get certain cards that can trigger important, storylines. And so whenever, it depends on how long a game lasts, how many cards you go through. So if you're having shorter games, percentage-wise, you're less likely to draw those important trigger cards. And so we had one scenario where we literally only had 2 rounds, so we only pulled 2 cards, and one where we only had 3 rounds. So I feel like we're going to be closer to the 22 than to the 11 games. I'm getting a little bit tired of it. The basic the basic premise is, there's a card that's going to come out, and everybody has to vote and use power, so they can vote more than just one time if they want, if they have enough power, if they have enough sway in the kingdom. And you're voting, do I want us to say yes or no to this decision we have to make? Thematically, I think some of the other players in my group, they're looking at it narratively. As we've talked about, that's not my jam, so I'm looking at it mechanically. So on both decisions, it's going to say, hey, if you go this way, it's probably going to have this effect. If you go this way, it's probably going to have that effect. So I'm looking at it like, how am I going to accomplish my end of game objective? And that's what's helping me decide which way to go. Whereas some of my other people are like, oh, well, we decided last time to do this. And so if we want to stick to our guns and we need to make this decision again this time. And I could see how they're enjoying it more, but that's just not the way I look at it. However, there is one kind of cool mechanic. So every house, there's a lot of different houses. You pick a random one, has what's called a narrative goal, where you're going to get a really good benefit if you accomplish that. And it's not a mechanical thing. It's like, if in the story you get to this plot point, then you have accomplished what your house wants to accomplish. And so in that situation, you have to be listening to the narrative. Like mine is embrace immortality. Spoiler alert, that is my house's goal. So it's possible for me to never get to that unless I'm pointing the story in that direction. But I'm kind of having trouble wrapping my head around that. There are some cards, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. There are some cards where it literally flips over and it's like, which experiment should we do? And it's like a picture of one thing or a picture of another thing. And it doesn't tell you anything about it. So for me, if I'm playing mechanically and I want food to go up and money to go down or whatever it is that my goal is in that game, and that I'm not invested in that. So there's an option just to pass and get some more power. I almost always do that. So it's not hitting off for me. I'm ready to be done. The only kind of stand-up moment that we had, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but usually the game is going to end either whenever you've played a certain number of cards, or if all the resources in the kingdom are too low or too high. But we played a card, and based on our decision, it said the king is dead. This game is over. And so we all were like, "What? Is the whole campaign over all of a sudden?" But it was just saying that scenario was over. Other than that, it's just been kind of like meh for me. And I just saw they're coming out with Queen's Dilemma. I don't know if it's going to be similar mechanics or not, but I think I might pass on it. But I will finish this out because the theme is really fun. It's basically like you're sitting, on the council in a Game of Thrones kind of situation. There's some very dark, deep decisions to be made about, life or death. So
is your group doing
interesting
a lot of negotiation on this? Is there a lot of side talk, a lot of trying to sway each other, or are you just kind of going through the motions?
No, definitely. There's a lot of that because so there's two main resources that you can gain, which is power and money. And if you don't want to vote one way or the other, you can pass and get this moderator token, and then people can start bribing you to break ties in their favor. And we've learned actually being the tiebreaker is a lot more lucrative than anything else because you hold the power. If I can just tie the power to my side, then I can give you $10 and you'll break it in my way. So there's a lot of that for sure.
Yeah, this game is highly dependent on who you play with. I'm about as far into it as it sounds like you are. We're about halfway through the scenarios, and my group has been on quite a hiatus now. We actually haven't played it in 3 or 4 months, and I'm wondering at this point whether we're going to get back to it or not. But similar experience kind of in that, now that we're halfway, a lot of us are not motivated to finish it. The ones who want to finish it just want to finish it. They just want to see it through and say that we completed it and we did the whole thing. It started out really, really fun. But again, I think it's really dependent on who you play with. The group that I was playing with, some were more engaged than others. And so it's some people were just kind of going through the motions. So like I say, just trying to move things along. And so I have wanted to try this again with a group of quote unquote gamers, some more hardcore gamers, just to kind of see how that would change the experience. The group I've been playing it with, it's been more of a social kind of thing. It's over some drinks and some food, and then we're kind of playing the game lightly. So I think it'd be interesting to see how that experience would go with a different group. But it's fun. It's an interesting game, and like I say, I'd like to see. I'm one of the ones who wants to see what would happen, kind of see it through to say that we finished it and just kind of see how it wraps up. But yeah, it's a fun game.
But it's a full campaign game, so it's not like something you can just throw together and play a session
right
to get the fun feel of the game. You really got to commit to the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think you can drop in and drop out because I know there's extra houses, and I think there was a thing in there about
That's
people.
my favorite mechanism with these campaign games.
Yeah, people can drop in and drop out. It's one of those that if you just drop in and drop out, you really have no chance to win. So if you want to quote unquote win the game, you really need to be there the whole time, or at least 95% of the games probably. But yeah, it's an interesting experiment. It's a different kind of game than just about anything else I've played before. But yeah.
And Mitchell, you were talking about your individual goal. My understanding is there's tracks that you're trying to adjust or manipulate with the decisions, right?
Yep.
Now, how does that
there's
apply
5
to
tracks.
the family goal? Is it tracks also?
So so you have like your overarching goals for the whole campaign, and then you have game by game goals. Right. And so For this one, you might be an extremist. So you want the money or pick a random resource to be as far away from the military strength as possible. And you get points for how far the extremes. Or there might be one where you want everything to be high. Like it might be called opulent or something like that. Like you want everybody to be making money, everybody to be powerful in strength for military, everybody to have food. There might be one where you're I don't remember what it's called, but it's like you want the kingdom to be poor and weak and have no food. So it's like you're just kind of pulling the strings to try to fit as many of those as you can with what you want that game.
Everybody's different. So I think we were playing with 6. I think there might be 7 different roles from game to game that you draw. You don't do it randomly. The first player gets to take all the rolls and look at them secretly and choose which one they want. And then whoever's in second place gets to choose second. And it goes down that way. But by using 6 of the 7, they were almost always in play. So again, you had somebody who was trying to push them all high. You have somebody who's trying to push them all low. There's another one that it's moderate. You want to keep them all within this bracket and keep them all right in the middle range. And so everybody's fighting against each other. And you're trying to, as that particular game goes along, you're trying to figure out, all right, who is trying to do what here? And you can bribe. It's pretty open that way. You can pay people money. You can pay people, I think, power to try to get them to vote with you. Or to. What
about the family goal, though, right? Because you talked about embrace immortality, I think is what you mentioned. Is that based on those same tracks that you're moving up and down?
No, so that's a narrative goal. That has nothing to do with the gameplay. That has to do with the story that's unfolding.
Yeah.
You want to point the story in that direction. Like, I'll give you an example. Lainey, you guys met Lainey. Her goal, and we didn't know this. We didn't know what her goal was.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's great. Her goal was win a war. And so we didn't know this, but like we're going through the story and it's like, you know, do we make an alliance with these people or do we fight against them? And Lainey's like, yeah, let's fight against them. And we just thought she was being Lainey. And then we go and fight them and we win the war. She's like, hey, that was my family's goal. I can check this off and get this really nice benefit now.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I was worried because the family goal, I didn't want the family goal to be counter to what my game goal would be, but it sounds like they did a good job of separating it.
It can be, though. Yes, you're the goal that you pick. Sometimes you are going to have to pick a goal that is directly contrary to what your overall goal is.
Okay.
And you're going to have to try to tough out that, that hour of gameplay.
Well, this is how they explain it in the rule book. So across the whole campaign, you are this family, this royal family. Each game is a different generation.
Yeah.
So I may be the outlier in my family, and I don't care about what my family wants. I want what I want.
Got it.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, you connected the theme. You know how to get me.
Theme. That's crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
I'm interested in playing this game, but I'm definitely not interested in being a part of a campaign.
Yeah, the game really does.
Well, playing it by itself, in my
there's
opinion,
no one shot.
that's not worth it.
It has no setup for a one shot.
No.
I mean, yes, you could, but
it's not, definitely not the purpose of the game. Yeah, it wouldn't be that much fun. The fun is in trying to string a bunch of them together and push things more and more to the way that you're trying to push them. One game is, I mean, you can.
And how long is one game?
It can depend. It varies. There's 3 different, I think, triggers to the end the game. And
yeah, I would say it's around an hour.
Yeah, around an hour.
Not terrible.
I've done some in 30 minutes, and I've done some in probably an hour and a half. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll check it off my box of games that I want to play. Nope, I'll take it off.
Put a no in that box. No.
Cross that off.
I'm going to hit one more game here real quick. Circadian's First Light. Unique game. It's a game I got to get Carlos to play. This is a Michael Lorenzo, our friend who recently moved. I don't know, when do we stop saying recently? But anyway, recently moved from...
the next 2 years, he will have recently left us.
Yeah, from the Tampa area up to Seattle. And so... we've talked about Mike Lorenzo on the show before about he's one of these guys who just seemed to be plugged into the Kickstarter. He monitored all the Kickstarter stuff, and he would find these games that we had never heard of, and he'd be like, this game is awesome, and you guys need to play this. We're like, what? We haven't heard this. There's no buzz about this particular game or whatever, and then we would play it, and we'd be like, wow, we missed out. Why haven't we played that game sooner? Because a lot of these games, the new hotness would always be the thing, and so we'd jump around and play other games that everybody was talking about. And we wouldn't get to these little ones. And then 6 months, 8 months, 10 months down the road, the game that he had introduced us to all of a sudden now is the hotness, even though it had been out for a while. It was these hidden gems, these slow burns. But one that he really liked that he introduced me to probably a year and a half ago. Actually, it had to be more than that now. But in any case, Circadian's First Light. This is a dice placement game. You're rolling your dice behind a shield. The theme of the game, blah, 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 theme, is something about you're visiting an alien planet. There's 3 alien races. You're trying to negotiate. You're the visitors on this alien world, on this different world. and you're doing these different things to try to take advantage of. You're negotiating with the natives. You are mining. You're doing different kinds of things. There's actually 6 little mini boards, and then there's 2 bigger boards that you're placing dice out on. But to get back to the quick explanation, you're rolling your dice secretly behind a shield, and then you've got these little bays, these little hangers that you can allocate them to, and you can customize your player board, these little hangers, and what they do and how they allow you to manipulate the dice. There's a lot of dice manipulation. So it is random on your initial roll each round of how your dice come out. But there's different things you can do. If you roll pairs, that allows you to go to a particular location on the main boards to use pairs that only pairs of dice can do. There's areas where 6s are good. There's areas where 1s are good. So depending on what you're rolling can kind of dictate how you go from round to round. But you're placing these dice out onto a bigger board to take different actions. You're doing it one at a time. So you're going one action, one action, one action, one action as you go around the table. And there's a lot of the secretive part of this is depending on what you roll, there is definitely some blocking. The spaces you can go to are pretty limited to where you almost kind of like worker placement, dice placement. And so, I may only be able to go take this action if I rolled a pair of 5s or a pair, I should say that the pairs aren't limited on the number. But there's a chance that, if I'm third in turn order, if I could see what somebody else rolled, I could see that, oh, they're placing a pair over there. I need to abandon that strategy because they're going to place that pair before I can. So it's a neat little hidden thing where you're placing your dice out. You're allocating kind of general ideas of where you want them to go ahead of time. Then everybody reveals, everybody lifts their screens, and then so everybody's checking out everybody's dice. Yeah, so everybody's checking out everybody's dice and going, "Oh man, you're gonna go before me and you're gonna do the thing and whatever." So it's a lot of fun that way. There's some variability with the game setup. You've got asymmetry at the beginning. Everybody gets 2. I think it's leaders or commanders of the group, and you get 2 that have special abilities, and you choose which one you want. There's a very brief draft at the beginning. There's the items that you're trying to, they call them deposit. There's a depository. You're basically kind of building, you're fulfilling the resources to be able to play a card that gives you an ongoing ability during the game. But there's a draft section where everybody gets 4 cards. You're going to pick one of the 4, pass to your left. Everybody ends up with 3 of them. And again, that kind of further sets the direction of how you're going to play this game, how you're going to collect resources. Resources in this game are really tight. There's 4 resources: algae, power, gems, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. But water, and water is the most plentiful. It's the most useful resource. But you're spending these resources as you allocate your dice to go do different things. Fun game. I mean, I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg. It is a little bit of a teach. I would say the teach of it takes a hot minute to teach new players how to play. I think my teaches run a little long. I am thorough, as Carlos will tell you, as probably both these guys will tell you. I'm pretty thorough on my teach, but I want everybody to be ready to go once we start. Hopefully there shouldn't be a whole lot of questions once we start. But anyway, so my teach was probably 20 minutes. But the game itself, we did a 4-player game. It took us probably just a little over an hour and a half-ish. And everybody, I taught 3 new people how to play, and they all seemed to really enjoy the experience. They all wanted to play again. So great game. I could definitely recommend it. It fits a lot of little niches. It's not overly complex. Again, there is a little bit there on the teach and the learning. Once you pick up the symbology and kind of the way the game flows, it's pretty natural after that. But game I definitely recommend. I'm going to definitely get Carlos to play it soon because I think it's going to be right up his alley. I think he's really going to enjoy this one.
Now, this is one I want to play on video.
Okay.
To me, it's the presence of the board.
Yep.
That really interested me watching others play it. The map itself, the rovers on the planet moving around to collect resources, the player boards with the hangars and the different vehicles in the hangars and what they do to dice. All that looks gorgeous. I think it'll look great on a playthrough.
And the game is a table hog. That's the one biggest detraction from it is there are a lot of little sideboards, a lot of little things. The nice thing is the sideboards are all small, so you can actually kind of orient them and lay them out if you've got a weird shaped table, a round or a square or a rectangle. So that part of it's kind of nice. But the game is a table hog at 4 players. Everybody's got a player board. There's 6 little mini boards. There's a big round board that's the planet, which your rovers moving around to collect resources. And then there's 2 larger boards that you place dice on permanently. When you place them, you don't ever get them back. And people are racing to fill up those boards for different benefits. But yeah, I think it's going to be right up your alley, like I said. Yeah.
Carlos, you hadn't played this one? You guys did a podcast a while back specifically on this game.
Yeah, we talked about it.
It was Michael Lorenzo and Robert talked about it.
I think we talked about it. Yeah.
I sat back and was oohing and on.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, I know it's going to be one that's going to be up your alley. So yeah, we'll do a play. We'll do a recording of that. That'll be fun.
All right, my next title that I'm going to talk about is Rallyman GT. Now, I feel a little bad because tell me how you really feel. I have it in person and I've played it in person, but I'm talking about my recent plays on BGA, Board Game Arena, because it really got it back to my table, the physical copy. I've got the rule book out. I'm kind of reading through the rule book again, really getting a better grasp of it. We've been playing it on Board Game Arena, and it's just reminding me how much fun this game is, and playing it not with family, which is where I played it before, has been with family. Playing it with real gamers, other gamers that like racing games, I'm starting to see the strategy in the gameplay, the decision spaces that allows you for moving forward, for deciding what gear to be in at the end of your turn for next turn. So in Rallyman GT, it's a racing game. You're playing a race car driver in a car racing around a track. First person to get around the first time around the track is the winner. But the way they do it is so interesting because it's all about dice. So it's kind of a push your luck dice game where you're going to use dice of different values. So like a first gear dice, a second gear dice, all the way up to a 6th gear dice, depending on the car you have. And each die will have a number of caution symbols. So like a triangle with an exclamation point. If you played X-Wing before, we call them stress in X-Wing. Yeah. But it's a caution symbol. Then you've got these white dice that represent coasting. So you've got the gear dice that represent acceleration. The white dice represent coasting, and you get 3 of those. And then you have these red dice that represent braking. So kind of slowing down. And then each of the dice have a different distribution of the number of caution symbols. So the lower gear dice and the coast dice, I believe, only have 2 caution symbols out of the 6 sides. These are all D6 6-sided dice. But when you get to like 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear, and 6th gear, they start getting more caution symbols on the sides of the dice because you're kind of pushing your limit. You're going faster, trying to take turns at higher speeds. If during your movement you ever get 3 caution symbols showing on all of your dice that you selected for that round, your car spins out. It crashes off the road. So on your turn... I've
got a lot of experience with that part of the game.
Crash. Probably why Mitchell's not a fan. As you take your turn, you have to decide what dice you're going to place on the track from where your car is to kind of create a pathway on the track to get around different corners and bends of the racetrack. So I might go from 0 to 1st gear. So I place a die on a space. That next space, I could go 2nd gear, place a 2nd gear die, and then kind of indicate the path my car will take using these dice. The faster I go, the more chance I have of rolling these exclamation points that are going to cause caution. If I ever get 3 caution, I spin out. So you have to kind of decide what order am I going to place these dice in. So what gears will I be in? Will I upshift? Will I downshift? When I get to this corner, there are some corners, most corners, that limit you on what gear you can be in to safely navigate that turn. And if you cannot place a die above that gear on that turn, so you kind of have to manage your path. So it's really interesting in the tactical aspect of it, deciding accelerating hard and getting to a corner, then braking hard to be able to get it down into a lower gear so I can safely take the corner. I'm having fun. Getty, also known Rich, also known as Getty 19, has brought me into it, and watching him play, because this is one of his favorite games to play on BGA, has really brought out to me that the idea that this isn't just a dice chucker. You have to make decisions and the right decisions. And I normally play this solo because there's a solo aspect of this game where you can it turns the amount of dice that you've placed into a timed score. So you can kind of get like a timed lap solo mode, which I've done myself a lot with the board game, but playing against other people with a full board of 6 changes all that, because now I got to navigate around your cars. And there's restrictions on what cars I can overtake. So at the end of the day, my quick lowdown on this game is if you're a racing fan, if you like push your luck games, if you're okay with some dice rolling, a little bit of luck, where you can set the amount of luck you decide. And I didn't bring that up, but you can decide how much luck to use, because when you lay out your path, you have 2 options. You can A, do it normal, and you're going to roll each die individually as your car makes its way down the road. So you can see, okay, I rolled an exclamation point on my first roll. Second roll's good. Third roll's good. Here's my fourth roll. I rolled another exclamation point. Now, I've got 3 more dice laid out for my path. If I choose to roll that next die and I get an exclamation point, I'm spinning out. So I can choose at that moment to just stop, right? I'm not going to push my luck there. Or I can try. I can keep going, right? It's a white die. It doesn't have that many exclamation points. I can push my luck if I want to. You decide. The second option is I can lay out my path of about 6 dice or so, right? And then just pick them all up and roll them and see what happens, right? If I get 3 exclamation points or more, my turn's over.
Flat out.
Yeah, it's called flat out.
Yeah.
But the reward for going flat out is you get these focus tokens. And these focus tokens can be spent to lock in or secure die. You can use these focus tokens to say, I'm not going to roll that die. It's going to be an auto pass. So you kind of have to balance when you want to go flat out to gain some resources so that you can use them later to help secure dice in maybe a tougher section of the track when you're at higher speeds and going around. So I'm all about this game. Maybe I'm a little bit alone on this one. I know Mitch is not on my side, but what do y'all think of Rallyman GT?
So for me, I've only played it on BGA, and although I've been a strong proponent of BGA in the past, this is a game I think you need to learn in person. I couldn't really wrap my head around it. I felt like for the genre that it's in, a racing game, it was trying a little bit too hard. I did attempt to learn this, several months ago whenever I first got into BGA, but a quick little sidebar here. We've been really hot on BGA on the podcast lately, and I was telling you guys earlier, I'm getting just a little bit burnt out. Every time there's a game invite in the Discord, I'm clicking accept, whether or not I know the game. Yeah. And so sometimes I'm learning 3 or 4 games a day while I also have 15 a day.
That's a lot, yeah.
I'm serious. While I also have 15 games going on that I already know.
That's a lot.
And so I liked BGA whenever it was a little bit less all-encompassing.
Yeah.
Whenever I would say, okay, I'm interested in this game. Let me learn it, play that game and that game alone right now. And then I think part of it also has to do with it is summertime for me now. So at work, I get the notification, a distraction, right? I can play this game. And then a few minutes later, another game notification. Whereas now it's like I have all the free time in the world with it being summertime. And it's like now that it's there and available, it's not as exciting. So all that to say, I might like the game in real life, but on BGA, it just didn't hit for me.
Yeah, I'm learning it. We had played it, Carlos and I had played it once or twice, not a lot, but we played it just once or twice in person, and I thought it was okay. We've played it now, I think, twice on BGA, and now that I'm learning the rules better, and we actually found out we were playing a few things wrong when we were playing the physical version of it. We've been schooled on that a little bit. But there definitely is another layer to it now that I'm seeing that I didn't realize was there before. It's partially because we were playing some of the stuff wrong, and then partially just because there is definitely a luck aspect. I see what Carlos is saying because the teacher is definitely schooling us in this. He's beat our brains in, at least my brains in, the 2 laps that I played or the 2 rounds I played. But it does feel like if you get one set of bad rolls, if you spin out one time, if you go the all out and you just get bad luck and you just roll bad, everybody's going to pass you. And it feels to me like it's really hard to catch up once you get past because everybody's got basically the same dice that they're laying out each time. And so unless somebody makes a mistake, again, ahead of you, once you fall behind, the people ahead of you just kind of need to almost play it safe. Not really. I mean, they got to keep going. But I don't know. It feels a little lucky to me. So we'll see how it goes. And then just touching on BGA real quick, since you brought it up, I gotta mention Board Game Arena for those who aren't sure what we're talking about, the digital copies of board games online. I agree with you to an extent. I was telling Carlos that I feel there is a bit of a push and pull for me on the number of games. I'm trying to keep the number of games I'm in right around 8 or 9 or 10. On one hand, I wanted to jump into a whole bunch of games, and at first I was really loving it. And I was in 12 or 13 games, and I was like, oh, yes, this is awesome. I'm getting into all these different games. But then I found a lot of those games started ending, and I wasn't jumping into new games. And I went down to as low as 4 games. And what I don't like about that is I like whenever a couple times a day, at least when I go to log on, I like there to be a game waiting for me. But when I'm down into just 3 or 4 games, and I jump on, and it's not my turn in any of the games, I feel like, oh, well, that was kind of a waste of time. I just, even though it was only 30 seconds or whatever to go over to the computer or pull up my phone and look, it's a little disappointing when I pull it up and no game is waiting for me. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to keep waiting, and I guess I'll check again another hour and see, and then I check it another hour, and oh, nope, still not my turn in any of these games. But I will definitely agree with you in trying to learn too many games. I was learning 3 or 4 at once, and that was overwhelming. That one, I felt like I was holding up games because I was going back and trying to brief myself on rules and go and watch a YouTube video or, whatever. Have limited myself now to really learning one new game at a time. So even though I'm in 8 or 9 games, 7 or 8 of those are games that I'm familiar with and that I'm pretty quick at, pretty confident in. And then I'm trying to keep it to just one game that I'm learning. And so I'm finding that that's better. And I was telling Carlos was mentioning before the show tonight, we were talking about it. He said he feels the pressure when he's in all those games that, everybody's waiting on me. I need to play my turn all the time. I kind of feel that way, but again, the nice thing about keeping it to one game that I'm learning is I can usually go pretty quickly through those 7 or 8 games that I already know. I can jump in, knock out my turn quick. I don't feel bad in that case when there's the one game that I'm learning if I take a little extra time. So like right before the show, I pulled it up and I had like 2 minutes before the show started to try to do my turn, and it was the game that I happened to be learning. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to turn this off. I'm going to put it down. I don't have time to think through what I'm going to do right now. I'll come back to it after the show in a couple hours. And then, and Carson said, don't you feel bad about that? People are waiting for you. Like, no, I'm in 7 other games. I'm up to speed on my other 7. People can wait for me for this game for a couple hours. So anyway,
and there's something different about it being on BGA because, in a board game night, I can learn 3 or 4 games, no problem. Sure. But whenever you have it, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's triggering things for you. It's automatically doing a lot of the cleanup. Yeah. You're not seeing what other people are doing. You don't have people explaining what's going on. Sure. It's different. And if it's one game, I can focus on, like you said, I can focus on filling in the lines of the things I'm not seeing. But I've learned that's my absolute limit. Yeah. And like you're saying, if it's games I know, boom, 5 minutes, I've played 20 turns, you know. But if there's 3 or 4 games that I'm trying to learn and I'm having a rules reference, it's literally gotten to the point on some of these games, I won't say what they are in case you guys are in some of them, where I'm just what can I click on to get this notification going so I can go on to the next game, honestly.
Okay, well, it's a thing.
I'm not learning. I'm telling myself I will not be learning new games. Flat out. Just won't be doing it.
On BJ?
I just won't be doing it. I just can't. It is not working for me. Async. Let me caveat that.
Async. Right. If it's live, it's different.
Right. Yeah. I think we all agree
I've
on
learned
that.
some awesome games live.
Yeah.
Conversation, because we normally we'll set up a chat room, like a video chat room, and we'll all go in and talk and chat and talk while we play.
Walk people through their turns.
Yes, but async, I don't know how y'all do it.
Yeah, Wayne and I played a game of Tapestry the other night in the Discord. I think we need to try to set some more of those up. It was fun, chatting and playing a game like we were in person. I missed it
by just like 20 minutes. You guys had already started with it, and I was like, dang.
Yeah, that's cool. That helps the community, too. It brings a lot closer together over those gaps.
Well, we got to get back to doing the Thursday night post-show live game.
Yeah, on BGA or wherever. But yeah, that's still fun. Yeah.
So that's me, Rallyman GT, and that was us with Board Game Arena. And Mitchell, I think you were going to talk about Bargain Quest?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and close out the banter. You said you hadn't heard of this one, Carlos. Rob, you either?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
It's from Renegade. I think you would like it, Carlos, because it's really themey. So, there's the cliche adventurer fighting monsters theme, right? Well, this is not it. You're not the adventurer. You own the shop that he's coming to right for his adventure, and you're trying to sell him his gear. So not only are you trying to make money off of him, but also you want him to do well in his quest for a couple reasons. First of all, you'll get the credit because you equipped him, and so you're going to get some victory points if he wins. But also, if he has the loot from the dragon or whatever he's fighting, then he can come back and buy more stuff from you. That's the overarching theme. So basically, at the beginning of the game or the beginning of each round, you're drafting which adventurer you want to attract to your shop. So you have this hand of equipment, and one of them you're going to put on display. He can't buy what's on display. That's the display model. He can't buy that from you. And then the rest of your cards you can sell. Well, adventurers, they may be a mage, they may be an archer, they may be a melee guy. And so you have to put something out on display that's going to match up to his class. But then once he comes into your shop, you also have to have items of his class for him to buy. And so the thing is, you want to charge him a lot of money, but at the same time, if you sell him only expensive things, you may not be able to sell him all the equipment he needs. So you're trying to find this nice balance. Then he goes off on his quest. And you can manipulate a little bit. But again, you get victory points if he wins, and then he gets all that money that you can come back in the next round and hopefully draft him again and see the fruits of your labors of equipping him well to be able to sell him even more stuff for his next quest. It was a lot of fun. Simple. There was definitely a little bit of take that if I'm drafting maybe you sent off this guy and he made all kind of money and you want to draft him back to buy stuff in your shop, but I might draft him before you, even though you were the one that was the reason he won his
He's
quest.
fat and rich.
Really fun
Somebody
game.
else gets him.
Yeah.
How does the quest piece work out? So watching the hero go on a quest, does someone own that character's decisions? How does a quest work out?
There's really no decisions. So the characters, they're all different, but they're going to have a base like attack and defense value. The equipment that you sell them is going to add to their attack and defense. And then whenever they go to the monster, just a card's going to flip. That's either going to add or subtract their attack or defense. And then you compare that to the monster's stats. And so you're not really... He's working on his own because you're just the shop owner. You're not controlling his quest. You're just seeing the results of your sales to see if it's going to bring him to success or not.
So almost like which one of the games that you and I enjoy, After the Empire, or like a Galaxy Trucker, where you're setting things up and then just kind of watching to see what the results
Wait to
are.
see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's much lighter than After the Empire, but it was a fun little twist. I like meta games, so like role player, where you're not playing D&D, you're creating a D&D character. So it's here. You're not going on an adventure. You're the NPC with the little shop symbol above your head that you're trying to attract people and make money off of them.
Yeah, I'd heard about this game before it came out, so I was kind of familiar with a little bit about what it was about, what you were doing. I didn't know too much about the mechanics. It's a game, though, that I didn't hear much about after it came out. It was one that kind of disappeared a little bit, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. We'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah, I think the name might be part of it. The name really didn't piqued my interest that much, but whenever my friend started explaining it to me, I was like, this could be interesting.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Bargain Quest, Renegade Games.
Yeah.
All right, that wraps up our banter and what we've been up to. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our topic for today, Endeavor, Age of Sail. Stick around. All right, folks, welcome back. We are talking Endeavor, Age of Sail. The Age of Sail, which is 1571 to 1862, was an era of unprecedented expansion across the oceans of the globe, where seagoing empires tied the continents together with mighty fleets, set sail into a rich strategy game where you are a growing naval power attempting to connect with the distant regions of the world. From your foothold in Europe, you'll strive to make the wisest connections as the maps unfold. Compelling decisions abound. You'll grapple with efficiency, strategy, and even morality. The battles ahead will be fought with cunning as much as with cannons. When it's all over, will it be your empire that writes the history books?
Man, they should get you to write the front covers of rule books for board games. I don't know where you got all that from, Carlos. That was good.
That was pretty good, yeah. Top of my head.
Yeah. I was going to give the BGG real quick. So just the BGG stats on an Endeavor Age of Sail 2018 release, 8.0 on the rating, 2 to 5 players. They say best at 4, which I think I'd agree with. 60 to 90 minutes play time. Weight is a 2.81 out of 5. Designers are Carl DeViser and Jarrett Gray. And this is published by Burt Island Games, the Grand Gamers Guild.
And Mitch is going to give us a rundown, right, on how the game plays?
I was trying to, and then you interrupted me. So let's see. A basic, quick elevator pitch for the game. So you are trying to take control of different regions, kind of a little bit of an area control game, but in a unique way. So at the beginning of every round, there are 7 rounds. Everybody's going to be drafting a building tile. And that's how you track the game. How many buildings have you built? And they're going to have different actions on them. One of the most common actions is to sail. Everybody starts off in Europe, so you can control forts and ships in Europe. And whenever you take control of a fort or a ship, there's some resource that's going to be there that's randomly set up at the beginning of the game. And it'll cause you to move up 4 different tracks on your board. Kind of one of the big goals of the game, though, is to explore other continents. So before you can go to a continent, you have to establish a trading route there. So you have to ship to these different continents. Once you've filled all those in, then that continent is open and you can start making forts there as well. However, you have to have presence in that shipping route somehow, or you have to get some ships in the region before you can place on the land. So you want to try to get in before it gets closed off. Whoever has the most in that shipping route is going to get the governor card, some benefits. They're the governor of that continent. You're going to be battling other people. You're going to be trying to increase your worker count so that you can do more actions. Want to be able to pay your workers more so they can do the action multiple times. At the end of the game, you'll score not just for the forts you control, but also for the cards that you've gotten for working in those different regions, for connecting different forts, and also your 4 resource tracks that you're going to be trying to you're going to be building up. Rob, this is one of your all-time favorites. Why don't you lead that
I'm
off?
going to lead off. Wow, why do I like this game? I'd say some of the big pluses for this game is that it is simple to teach. This game, it has just a handful of options, a handful of actions that you do on your turn. There's a handful of chits on the board that you're collecting and that do different things. You've got on your player board 4 tracks that you're moving along. Those tracks are pretty easy to explain. And then on your player board, there's a little graphical breakdown of how a round works, how your turn works, how everything happens. And so I think it's pretty logical for most people that I've taught this game, and I've taught quite a few people this game. It's pretty logical the way things flow into each other, the different things that you're trying to do. The area control aspect and what they call linking different things on the main board to get bonus points is visually, again, very easy to pick up. You've got these routes that are all designated by pretty clear lines that are on the board, and you're trying to connect things, whether they be land spaces or shipping routes, the boat spaces, the ship spaces on the water. You're trying to string as many of those together as you can. A mistake people commonly make in this game is thinking that this is a war game, that this is a game that you want to go in and force your way around, but that's a quick way to not do well in this game. And you'll kind of pick up on that as you play it the first time, that there's not actually a whole lot of actions that allow you to actually muscle someone out. So you really have to be strategic and think about the places that you want to go to link together different things. And you kind of want to do those at the end of the game if you're going to try to muscle somebody out of an area so that they don't have a chance to regroup and react to what you're doing. I like the, oh boy, I'm going to say it. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to like the theme of this game. I like the setting and the time period. This age of sail, this kind of exploring the new worlds, being a little bit of adventures that you're starting out in Europe and then you can branch out into these different areas. I like the way the game does scale. There's 2 sides of the board that play a little differently, and depending on player count, I think there's a preference of one side or of the other of the board. It plays from 2 to 5, which is, I think, a nice player count. I like it about 3 or 4 players. There's enough interaction with that many people. But I do like there can be some negotiation in this game, especially if you play it at 4 or 5. There can be a little bit of to open up new areas of the board to be able to start placing. First, you have to fill up this influence track that's along the outside. And there's a bit of a cat and mouse because... do
you want to be the cat? Do you want to be the mouse?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough decision.
Do you want to go into a new area on your own and try to push it and open up this new area? The advantage to that is, again, is whoever has the majority on that influence track, once the area opens up, you get those governor cards, which give you pushes on different tracks just for having the majority when that area is opened up. And again, what I mean opened up is when you filled up that track that allows people to start placing in the sea spaces and in the land spaces. So there's a little bit of, hey, Carlos is over there. He's trying to do that one. It's going to take him a while if he's going to do that all by himself. So let's abandon him over there. Let's make him do that all on his own. You and I come over here. We'll push this track real fast. We'll open up this area. You have to be in the area. There's a couple different ways you can be there, but that influence track, you either have to be placed on that track to then be able to place stuff into the area when it opens, or you kind of have to waste an action by there's just a big circle in every area where you can just place a ship after other people have worked to open that area up, getting different benefits. You can burn an action by placing a ship there, which does nothing for you on that one round, but then allows you to go into that area in the future. So there's some neat decisions in it. It's not a super heavy game. Again, I wouldn't say it's a game that requires a lot of plays. Usually after one play, the experience I've had from people are like, wow, let's reset that. And lastly, I'm not to belabor all this. It says the playtime 60 minutes on the box. I find that to be very accurate. Even in games that I've taught people, even in 4 or 5 player games, I find hour, maybe just a little over an hour is an accurate playtime. And this is a game that, like I say, after you play it the first time, a lot of people are like, whoa, let's reset that. That was, that was quick. That was fun. Let's do it again. It was only an hour. Let's play that one again. So, but I really like this game. I'd say it's right up there, close to my top 10 all time.
Some of the things that I like about the game, about Endeavor Age of Sail, is the construction decision. I find there's a limited number of buildings that we can construct as players. So if you don't get in on a certain building type early enough, you may never have access to that building.
There's limited numbers, yep.
Not having access to buildings means not having access to certain actions in the game.
Yep.
Like you have to have certain buildings to be able to do certain things. So it feels like a really tough decision on when to buy what buildings. I'm really enjoying that. It almost feels like a draft.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels like it, yeah. The turn order rotates just to the left, so each big round of the game, the person to the left is going to be the first player again, and the first action you take is starting with the first player. You go around and you take a tile. Well, again, as Mitch mentioned,
From a beautiful tray.
Yeah, I was going to say, those game trays are nice. So even just the standard off-the-shelf version comes with these nice game trays, but you're plucking one of those out, and depending on the level of it, there's fewer and fewer of them as you get to the more powerful buildings. So I think the most powerful ones at the very end, there's only one of each particular type of building. So the first come, first serve. The lower ones, I think it starts with 4 or 5 of each one. But if you're playing a 4-player game and it goes around and everybody grabs that one, by the time it gets to you, you may not have an opportunity to take it. So, yeah, it feels like a draft. I see what you're saying.
It's such a hard decision point because, so what we mentioned these tracks. The top track is the building track. So if I'm choosing or if I'm going up on that track, I'm not getting any immediate benefit in the game in terms of area control. But what I'm doing is I'm setting myself up for at the beginning of the next round, I can build better and better buildings. So do I get a better building to do a better action later? Or do I do a good action right now, but get stuck with a lower building at the beginning of the next round?
Yeah, investing in your infrastructure, because Rob mentioned it earlier, the rounds are counted by the number of buildings that are out on the board. So you really, what is it? How many buildings are we going to put out
7 rounds?
there?
It's maybe 8.
You start with 1 and then you place 7 more.
Okay.
Which I really like that at the beginning of the game. You can choose between 2 sides of one building, and you're either choosing land or you're choosing sea. So for the first round, you're only going to do land or sea. And you make that decision in turn order because it's very important. You want to have a balance. If everybody's going land, you better go sea, or else it's going to be very competitive that first round.
Yeah.
So very limited slots in how many buildings you're going to put in. So each building decision is so important. So do I work on increasing my infrastructure track so that I can buy the better buildings that give me better actions at a cost of getting more workers or being able to pay more workers to come, to refresh on each round? Oh, it just feels good deciding which way to go each game. Like each game feels so different because you just push and pull different levers each time.
It's almost like a worker placement game where you're each making your own set of worker placement spaces, and then you're trying to work within that to accomplish what you need. Because most of the buildings, they have a spot for you to put a worker on, and it's an action. And it's like, well, if I don't have any action spaces that let me, attack or draw cards, then that's on me. I've built the board wrong, and I can't do what I need to do. So it really puts a lot of onus on you to make those good long-term decisions.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the game starts, even though you have that one big decision at the beginning, like you mentioned, to either go with the land side of the tile or the sea side of the tile. I play this mostly with higher player counts, 4 and 5 players. That's where I really seem to enjoy it. But other than that one, and it is a big decision early on, but like you say, usually it's split. Usually if you're in a 4-player game, you got 2 people going land, 2 people going sea. You're starting out everything else identical to everybody else. And this is one of those games that it's fun to watch how it branches as you get further and further into the game. People start choosing different routes. You start really trying to do something different than what everybody else is doing so that you can go exploit something different or something new. And there's enough choices in here where you can branch and do different things, but I don't feel it's overwhelming. Like I say, there's only a set number of actions you can do. Your board clearly shows you what you can do, and it's not like there's a whole bunch of iconography or anything that's hard to catch on to. I've found that it just seems to be logical to a lot of people. When I teach this game, it's not something I'm having to go back and explain to somebody over and over. They're like, hold on, what does that thing do again? Like I see people do in so many games. And this one, once you get one good teach in, I really feel people grasp it, and they're like, oh, okay, now I can start thinking about I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to string this to that. And it's simple enough and quick enough. And then, like I say, the game being over in an hour, I find a lot of people, especially in that first play, it's over a little sooner than they wanted it to be. And like, oh, I didn't quite get everything going the way that I thought I was going to have time to do. Let's reset this thing and do it again. It was only an hour. Let's play it again. So, yeah.
And I think part of that positive player experience is how forgiving it is. So, like, just as one example, you have a hand limit, right? But there's this option like, hey, if you want to get more cards, governor cards, that's fine. You're going to lose points for it. But if you can audit it here and see if it's going to get you more points, then sure, take more cards.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the tracks. There's one track for getting more workers and one track for taking workers off of spaces. So I really like that track, the income track, because not only are you freeing up spaces to be able to do those actions again, but you also get to keep those workers and use them again. So it's like, it just feels good to go up that track. And there's a lot of experiences like that within the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, agreed. I've ended games with stacks of workers on my docks, and it's like, oh, that's nice. Look at this stack of little wooden chits that I've got here. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the balancing is like, do you focus on getting enough actions to do what you need to do or getting the workers to do them? Or really, you have to have a happy medium because if you have the action space and you don't have the workers or vice versa, it's not going to help you.
Right.
One thing that I like are the little blue chips. So the vast majority of the things you're going to gain on the board are going to be resources to push you off those tracks. But there are, I don't know, maybe 10% of them that are extra actions that you can do without workers. And those are so coveted. So sometimes you guys mentioned kind of that Cold War cat and mouse game. Am I going to open up this continent? What I do is I look, if I go to this continent, can I get some extra free actions over there? And that's usually what we're fighting over big time in my plays of it.
And those free ones are nice again because you pocket them. You kind of touched on that a little bit, but you don't have to. Everything else is pretty much instant. When you do a thing, it pushes a thing. It gives you a benefit or a reward immediately. Those little blue ones, you can actually hold them and choose not to use them now, and you can trigger them at any point during the game or anytime on your turn. It's one of these games where it's one action, around and around, until everybody's out of workers, out of actions that they can do. But those blue ones give you those extra actions. And so if you can stockpile 2 or 3 blue ones, you can go into a round where everybody else has passed, and then you're like, okay, blue chit, I'm going to do this. Blue chit, I'm going to do this. Blue chit, I'm going to do this. You can extend it, and you can kind of wait and see what everybody else did that round and then kind of pile on. And so there's definitely a cool little mechanic there where you can draw it out and play the round the way that you want to. So
the cat and mouse piece, I found it difficult. I found it difficult because of the one action per player. And I'm talking specifically about the governor track, so opening up a new continent, right? Because there's going to be, on the map, folks, you got Europe in almost the center of the map, and that's open to everyone. Everyone's got Europe. Then you got these different areas around the world on the perimeter of the board that are different continents that you're trying to get access to. Like the Caribbean could be one of them. And there's going to be these little circles that you're going to be able to place your workers on, your influence disk, to begin to open that track. I don't know. I just cannot figure out how to make that happen to my advantage. I feel like player order is so strong when it comes to the governor tracks. Yeah. Like I could say, all right, I'm going to open up the Caribbean track, right? Because I'm a plan to grab 3 of them. And that's going to give me majority so I can get the governor card from that track and get that bonus. But then when player order, this just doesn't fly the way you think. Someone can just pop in there and just take it from you. That's the part that kind of frustrates me.
Yeah, it's definitely harder at a higher player count. But the hardest thing, in my opinion, is so anytime somebody starts opening a continent, I'm kind of different than what you were saying, Rob. I want to get at least one of my tokens there that I can have access to it. Because if not, I have to take that wasted action. But the thing is, if there's a tie, then it's whoever did the last one. And so if there's 2 left and it's tied, it's like, well, if you go there, I'm going to take it next, or and vice versa. Oh, yeah. That's the hard part for me.
That's the whole thing. You get down to that last space or last 2 spaces. You're like, all right, if I go there, he's going to go there after me. It's going to be a tie. He's going to get that governor card. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go start opening up a new track on my own, and then see how far people will let me push on that track before they come over and feel like they got to get a piece of that action. So that's why I say, and in higher player counts, there can be some negotiation. Like I say, you can kind of look at each other and say, you know what, Carlos is winning this game. He's wanting to finish that track over there. Screw him. Let's go over, and you and I are going to open up Africa. We're gonna do a different thing, and then we're gonna force him to come in and place a chit. Like you said, you want to be in every area, and you need to place one on that influence track, or later you have to waste an action to place one in one of those big round shipping areas. And so there's always that pressure that, hey, I want to finish this track. I want to open this area so I can start placing here. But I don't want to miss out on the Caribbean over there where Carlos is starting to open that area up. If I don't get a chit in there, especially like I say, in a 3 or 4 player game, it may be, if everybody goes there, by the time it comes back to me, I may be completely blocked out and I may not even get on that track. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of little bit of, who's winning? Let's not help that guy. Let's make this thing happen. So
see, it can actually be used strategically. I can influence what you're doing. Like if you're about to do something I don't want you to do, well, let me go open up start opening up this continent, so he feels the pressure to come do that, and then maybe I could swoop in and subvert him. It's really hard whenever let's say you're tied and there's 2 left, and the next one is one of those blue actions. It's like, man, I really want that blue action. But if I do that, then he's gonna get the governor card. Situationally, is this a good trade-off? That's a big part of the game, is how situational it is. You mentioned how combat is not that big a deal, and you're right. If you try to combat like Scythe, if you try to go in and fight, regular actions take 1. Fighting takes 3 workers. So you have to activate it, put it on the board, and then use another one as your casualty. But late game, battling can be super important because, like, let's say you have 2 cities and you don't have the one in the middle. If you can get that one in the middle and somebody else has it, now you get these links, you get more points, right? If you do that early game, first of all, you're losing a large percentage of workers because you have less workers. But also, people can just come back in and take it. So in game, and if it's one of your last few turns, they don't have a battle action, they don't have the workers for it, you can swoop in and guarantee yourself those points. So I really like how the game changes from the first round to the 7th round. You're playing a completely different game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a fun part of it as well. The game, and I find the game slows down just a little bit. That later at the very, very end of the game, everybody's trying to kind of math out. Okay, I need that spot to link that to do that, and then those cards you mentioned, you can swap the cards out. So as you get more cards, there's the governor cards that come in, and then there's the item cards that you can get. And when you get those, there's that game of trying to shuffle. All right, I only have space for 5 cards. So this one's going to, if you take a card off, you have to go down the pushes on the tracks for the card that you gave up. And so you're trying to get better versions of the same cards that push you up 2 spaces on the track. So if I get rid of this one, I lose 1, but I go up 2 on the different track or whatever. So you're really doing that math. So yeah, there's some real interesting, fun decisions at the end of the game.
I was going to say one negative thing for me from the game, because we all been very glowing. There's a couple things I want to hit on. But first of all, we're mentioning those circles, right? There's probably over 100. I don't know. But setup is horrible because you set them all up and then it's like, we missed one somewhere. Where did we miss? You guys have that same experience?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're always hunting the board with the last couple of chits in the bag. We're like, hold on, there's exactly enough that every space should have a chit on it. And so you end up with, at the end, trying to figure out where those last 2 little spots are. So, yep, that's definitely.
So there aren't extra discs.
No.
It's always the same number.
It's always going to stay.
Where they're distributed is what's different.
Yep.
That's not bad, though, because I know a lot of games will do the extra disc in there, so the distribution of different resources are going to be different each game.
Yeah.
In this game, we know what the distribution of the bonuses are going to be, where they are, and how they're connected is what's going to change each individual play.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because there's so many different spaces. I mean, it's going to be extremely randomized.
Yeah, there's 80 or 90 on that board, I think. So, yeah, it's going to be way different each time you do it.
And so it comes with the built-in expansions. I think I've only played one time, but that's where it gets really themey, in my opinion. So I don't know an exact example. Let's say one of them is like, you're supposed to have 3. I think they're called exploits, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But it's like different continents interact. So if there's one where it's like maybe you're trying to be the British Empire. So like if you have presence in both India and Africa, then you get some kind of benefit. So it incentivizes you to go for specific continents to get these benefits. For me, that changed the game too much for me. I didn't enjoy it. That's why I didn't go back and play it. But it's super themey because it's based on historical events. Like, why would these 2 continents be interacting? So that's kind of cool.
But it kind of railroads you into a pathway instead of allowing you to bounce around between different continents.
Right.
Right. Well, whenever you're supposed to play with 3 different ones. So ideally, that's going to cover most of the board. It's just prioritizing. If I've opened this one, it's going to benefit me most to go to this one next because then they pair up and I get that bonus.
Yeah, and it says here I was just looking into, I actually have not played with the exploits yet. I've been wanting to, but it says in each game you play with 3 random or selected exploits, so you can hand choose, which you always could, of course, anyway, but maybe the ones that you like or the ones that interact with each other in an interesting way. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Looks like about 15 exploits that you can mix up and play different ways. So it definitely changes the way, like you say, the way the continents interact. It does push you in a direction of having to do certain things to take advantage of that and to do better in the game. So I see what you're saying. It kind of takes some of the openness out of the game where it's pretty open for how you want to play it and how you want to do it. But I can see how those exploits really kind of push you in a direction to do a certain thing.
There's the elephant in the room. Do you guys want to talk about the slavery deck for a minute?
That's the piece I wanted to talk about.
I mentioned before whether we were get too in depth on that, but go ahead.
No, Carlos, go ahead.
Coming from a tropical island, Puerto Rico, who was highly impacted, and growing up, the architecture, the statues, the art, the influences of the island are the 3 people in one. That's our motto. 3 people in one: African slave, Indian Taino, the natural Indian of Puerto Rico, and the European slave owner. It's just kind of, we cannot ignore it in our families. I'm dark, I'm brown. I have siblings who are light and white. I have cousins who are redheaded and, green-eyed. We are 3 people in one. It's just built into our culture. I like how Endeavor approached this topic. I really do. I do not like how Puerto Rico did it, the game Puerto Rico, when they call them colonists, right? That's whitewashing it. That's ignoring the contributions of my African side of my family, from my dad's side, whereas my mom's side is more European side. This game touches on this subject to me in a way that makes it almost meaningful, because it allows for a acquisition of cards. Remember, you get a hand of cards that give you bonuses to different tracks, scoring bonuses and otherwise. You can acquire from the European continent slavery cards, which are going to give you real fast increases to your tracks for industry and for income and for workers. Right? However, if as a group we choose to work on the European track as players, we can get to the last card of the European track and get to the abolishment of slavery. That means that any player who took the easy route of grabbing slavery cards to help build their industry and their tracks will then have to set aside all of those cards, so they go away, no longer active in the game, and any cards that they did have at the time of abolishment equal negative victory points at the end of the game. So
no matter what, they're negative victory points. So if you abolish slavery, you're getting negative victory points and no benefits.
Right, you lose your benefits. So we have to work together quickly to abolish. The sooner we abolish it, the less benefit folks get from those slavery cards. So it really adds this almost of a social conversation with the players, where when we see someone finally go first and grab a slavery card, I look across the table like, hey, what are we doing? Are we, are we stopping this?
We all going to play that game, or yeah?
Right. So it almost feels, it adds almost a historical element to it. Like, we have to decide as a world, as a community, are we okay with this? And I've been stunned in how the games have gone. There have been games where people that I thought were going to be on my side to abolish it were like, Carlos, I'm just going to grab one of those cards. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? Like,
I thought I knew you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I expected Rob to do it.
Oh yeah,
but,
I'm all over that every game. Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
No, in all, without jest, they did a great job in the rule book as well.
Yeah.
To describe the reasons they chose to make it a mechanism, and they include some citations of where you can go to learn more about how history was impacted through the use of slavery during this age of sail. So I give them kudos for how they tackled this subject.
It was definitely controversial. No, go ahead. Yeah, it was definitely controversial.
When
the game came out, there was a lot of talk about that and the way that they addressed it head on. And like you say, Puerto Rico was the example that people used the opposite.
And they used brown disc.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'm a brown guy from Puerto Rico. You gonna call me a colonist?
Yeah, and that's the name of the game, Puerto Rico. I mean, it was just, so it was kind of a slap in the face. And so there was some controversy on both sides of the aisle, people that were pro and con of the way that Endeavor handled that. But like you say, I mean, they write in the rule book, there's a whole paragraph about why they, chose to do it, how they were represented in this game, how they, the whole abolition thing and making it a negative if you, go too far down that track, and the rest of, like you said, the rest of the group decides to abolish it. So it's a real unique way of handling that topic. But
so my 2 cents, and keep in mind, this is coming from a very white person who, doesn't, I don't have the right, perspective on this. I'm trying to say this the correct way. First of all, in the rule book, they say, hey, we know this could be controversial. Feel free to play without the slave deck. The way that the mechanics of the slavery deck work, although they add a mechanic of their own, the game functions just fine without it.
Sure.
That abolition of slavery card, it has other benefits other than just abolishing slavery. So there's that. At the same time, the game penalizes you for taking the slavery route. It's negative points, and you have the risk of you not getting the benefits from the abolition of slavery. This is a historical game. Whether or not we like it, which I would hope we don't, slavery was a part of history. So as long as it's not painting it in a positive light, I personally think it's okay. Again, from my perspective, I think about people like Jamie Stegmaier, who he's making such an effort to be inclusive with viticulture world, with the mamas and the papas, that's no longer just, heterosexual. I know Everdell got a really big backlash for the husband and wife card. Why can't the husband marry the husband? And so I think in today's day and age, we have to try to see things from the perspective of other people and not just what we're baked in with. So in my perspective, I feel like Endeavor does a good job of saying, hey, this happened. We're not cool with it. There are negatives to doing it, but we're not going to ignore it, because ignoring it, it's kind of trivializing what happened.
It is effectively ignoring a third of my ancestry.
Yeah.
A full third of you're going to pretend like we were never there.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. So I'm so glad they didn't ignore a third of my ancestry.
So that's my perspective, and I'm 100% okay to be told I'm wrong, because again, it's not my, family history. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, agreed.
I think they did a good job. It's a tough subject, and we broached it. We did it. We talked about it respectfully, and hopefully y'all will have comments for us either in the email us beansanddice@gmail.com. Join us in the conversation on the Discord. We have a Beans and Dice Discord. We have a Beans and Dice a Facebook group to give us your opinion, because we're always open to talk about it. And I'm not shying away from how I feel about Endeavor and how they did it, and I think they did it well.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that wraps us up for our podcast in its entirety. That's all of it. That's the banter. That's our review of the game. And check us out every other Sunday we post a podcast. But more importantly, every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we are live taking your phone calls, hoping to hear from you on what you think of what we said about the games that we've played and Endeavor Age of Sail. So
and this past Thursday on the call-in show, that line never stopped ringing. So you guys need to get in there and call in earlier. You're just not going to have a turn.
Gonna get blocked out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start being a little quicker on the jump with the calls. Shorten that up.
Get them in, get them out. Yeah.
But it's great to have the folks call in. It makes it so much easier to do this. And man, we got a shout out from Jamie Stegmeyer on his live show this past week. Somebody was asking about call-in show type formats, and Jamie told him where to go. He said Beans and Dice is where it's at for that.
Y'all need to start paying that dude. He's what got me to you guys over a year ago in the first place.
Once we hit our first,
he's your best
100,000
marketing
subscribers, we'll send him a royalties check.
He is officially our marketing department.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, folks, we will catch y'all in 2 weeks for another episode of the Beans and Dice podcast, actual podcast, every other Sunday. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
I'm Mitch.
And we thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing with your friends. We are a podcast about
how we game.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.